And just, I want to hear a little bit about your beginnings, your humble beginnings, and how can we help our listeners that are aspiring to be in your shoes, and how can they get there? So our first question is, when you first got started, I know you talked a little bit about how you and your wife started figuring out investment properties, and you rode the wave of the '08 crash and all that. But what was your motivation? What was your main motivation?
So that is a great question, and I love to tell this story with the caveat that the story's not over. Obviously, me and my wife are still here, and we're still living, and we are navigating this journey together, and it is ongoing. But I went to school at Georgia Tech, got a degree in mechanical engineering, and while I was there, I was really involved in campus ministry called Christian Campus Fellowship. And when I graduated college, I was offered an internship as an associate minister at the Christian Campus Fellowship at Georgia Southern. So I went down there in August 2002, graduated college, went down there. I met my wife the first day I was there. We just had a lot in common. We were both just running really hard just to try to be the best we could be for God, just to try to figure out God's will for our life. And just as a result of that, we ended up dating. We met in August, we got engaged in October of that year, and we were married by June the following year. So by the time we got married, we'd known each other only 10 months. And we've been married, it will be 20 years this coming June. So just super fun times. We just had a great marriage, and looking forward to many more years of that. But we got married with the intent, like I said, we were running as hard as we could to figure out God's will for our life and just to follow him wherever he led. And at the
Mhm.
time, we really felt led to be missionaries. She was going to be a missionary a year after we had met, meaning that she had plans to work one more year and then go be a missionary. She met me, and then we both wanted to be missionaries. We wanted to work a little while first, and then figured out that if we wanted to be missionaries through the Southern Baptist Convention, we needed to I had to go to seminary basically, and then get kind of retooled, and that was going to take some years. And during that time of kind of figuring out, okay, do I want to go back to school to be a missionary through the Southern Baptist Convention? That was kind of a tough call for me because I really did not want to go back to school. And then realizing that having to go back to a 2 to 4 year seminary degree was pretty challenging.
Mhm.
And so during that time, we started thinking, well, I'd always been interested in being an entrepreneur. I'd, cut grass in high school and always been in some kind of business or another as a part-time investor or as a part-time businessman, just as a young child and in my adolescent years. But we started thinking, well, we could either go and be missionaries right now, or we could build a business that would send 10 missionaries or 15 or 100. So God's pockets are really deep. And, wherever you
Mhm.
fall on religious spectrums, whoever's listening, I don't want you to feel like I'm trying to preach my religion to you. What I want you to hear is the why in all of this is that we felt like God was leading us to do a certain thing. And that through that journey, we felt like we were uniquely situated with our motivations and our abilities and our background to get to a place where we could give something back to the community more than we could give individually, that we would be able to
Mhm.
build a business that would send many people and enable many people. And so I'm happy to say that now we do that. We contribute to
Right.
several ministry organizations, and we love our contributions there, and our plan is only to increase our giving exponentially in the next few
Yeah.
years and as we go down that road. But we started with the idea that we do this not just for our own appetites, which there's nothing wrong with wanting a better life for yourself or wanting nice things or wanting to drive a
Yeah.
newer car or wanting to live in a nicer house or go on nice vacations. There's nothing wrong with that at all. We just always internalize that that shouldn't be the only thing that motivates us. And so in
Yes.
addition to wanting to be the kind of people that enabled um, the spreading of good news, both from a biblical standpoint and just from just being people that spread joy wherever we went. That was
Mhm.
one aspect of it. The other aspect of it was that we did want that freedom. We wanted to have the choice to go and do whenever we wanted to for however long. And I actually just adopted somebody else's way of putting this. We wanted to be able to go wherever we wanted, stay as long as we wanted, buy whatever we wanted while we were there, and come back whenever we wanted. And just enjoy that level of freedom. Now that's a nebulous kind of like global goal, and
Yeah.
it's could be huge depending on how big your appetite is. So you have to be careful having just that kind of broad goal because you can get sucked into a life of just absolute consumerism.
Yep.
But that little snippet kind of helped put it in perspective that we want the best for ourselves, the best for our families, so that we can enable the most joy in the people around us. So that's kind of, that's a really long-winded answer to that question, but our why was not just about our own appetites. It was about giving back to the world and to our creator, what he had invested in us, kind of the parable of the good steward. We wanted to take the little bit that we had been entrusted with, and we wanted to multiply it into the world. Does that make sense?
No, it absolutely does. And it's so unique to hear that God led you to do real estate so that you could give more and spread the good news. Uh, Funny thing is I was lost when I became a real estate investor,
Oh,
and
really?
I found God through my success, through the success of Tiffany and I, in the miraculous success we had. It was like there's no explanation. There's no way this thing happened and this thing happened, and it's just random that we are finding success by chasing our dreams through this venture. And I couldn't keep ignoring it. And
Yeah.
so I I finally was like, okay, listen, I'm giving it up. And then when I let my hands out and I opened my arms up, I was receiving so much and I was giving so much that I don't know, my life just exploded with this internal, I don't know, it's a hard thing to describe, but I just love that God led you to be real estate investor to spread the good news, and real estate investing led me to God. And
Yeah.
it's a really crazy thing. And
That's a neat
honestly,
thing. Yeah.
it was my wife that steered me in the direction of God through real estate investing. She took my eyes and said, "Stop looking here, look over here." And it's like, "Oh, wow, I see it." So,
That's beautiful.
yeah,
That is a beautiful thing.
it's been amazing, and I'm so glad that I'm a real estate investor. It saved
Yep.
my life potentially. I mean, it did. It just saved my life.
Yeah.
All right. So when you first got started, and you did just answer that, did you have a detailed roadmap of where you're going, what kind of properties you're buying? You were super clear at the very beginning. No shiny object syndrome, no hey squirrel, look at that, no, I'm gonna go buy a barber shop in the strip mall, and I'm gonna also buy a KFC. There was none of that. It was single family rentals in this area, and this is my buy box. These are what the houses are going to be. And
Yeah.
you probably, it sounds like, and you may have realized this later, that we're going to buy B and C properties to begin with because that's what we can afford and we're going to stick to it. And then we're going to exchange them later. Or did that happen at a later point? Or was that the plan from the very beginning?
So great question. So I want to back up and say that I was not completely immune to shiny object syndrome. I've always kind of evaluated things in terms of a return on investment standpoint. And so when we were getting started with real estate investing, we bought our first couple of rental properties, and I was feeling like, oh, we're making progress. I got 3 rental houses. I was feeling kind of big about that.
Mm-hmm.
Other interests for people like me, like engineers, that we dabble and we like to tinker with things. And I was interested in fish tanks and stuff like that. So I made the totally poor decision, and I won't bog too much down with details, that I love saltwater fish and I love corals. So I was going to try to build a coral selling business. So I was going to buy these little tiny corals, grow them out, and sell them to local fish stores and turn that into another stream of income. And so it wasn't a super expensive lesson, but it was about a $3,000 lesson in focus. So
Yep.
I'm glad that I wasted that money, because it taught me that, okay, that was like a 8 to 10 month distraction of dealing
Yep.
with all of those things that I could have been putting into our business. And so I just considered that was what we call a seminar in the streets about
That's
how
right.
not to get distracted, about how to have that focus and how to stay away from the shiny object syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yep.
that one little experience then shifted us, okay, 100% we're going for houses. And
Mm-hmm.
we left open the possibility of, multifamily or other commercial stuff. But like I said, everybody that we started listening to just said, focus, focus, focus. And so we just
Yep.
stuck with that. And at the time, we did what was easiest to find. And we were young. We didn't have a ton of money. My wife was working. I was working. We had good credit. We could have bought bigger stuff, but I luckily found other investors who were trying to sell deals to me. Hey, pay this money and I'll give you a rental house that rents for $600 a month, and you can pay $30,000 for it. And that sounded good to me. So I bought 3 of those, and then I got to realizing that, what? This guy who's selling this house to me, he's doing a lot less work over a lot less time, in terms, like, he's making a lot more money for his time.
Yep.
And so I wanted to learn how to sit on his side of the table. I wanted to learn how to be the deal finder. So the first 3 houses we got from a wholesaler, and he's still around today in my hometown. He's a nice guy. We don't do business together anymore. He's in kind of different businesses now, but that kind of gave me the motivation to say, well, I may or may not want to be a wholesaler necessarily, but I at least want to get to the point where I can find the good deal first. And that way I'm, in a manufacturing term, I'm controlling more of the supply chain. I'm not just relying on one person to get the deals from. I wanted to learn how to go find the deals. And so that's when I decided to get retooled a little bit and spool up a we buy houses kind of business. And so that's what I did locally. We started marketing for we buy houses and doing postcards and things like that to find deals. But we definitely stuck with the houses. It was
Yeah.
always trying to find houses, and the boot camps that we went to, or the classes that we went to, and the local investors that were our mentors here, most of whom, actually all of whom, we still have great relationships with to this day, all had the kind of life that Sarah and I had envisioned, where they basically had all the free time that they wanted, and they all did it with primarily single family houses, which then led to some other things that they got involved in, like private money lending, which we also do. But
Hmm.
they their main business was single family houses, because they could do a little bit of work up front and then get years of income out of it, income that was inflation hedged. You have all these benefits from houses, and that's what all these
Yeah.
guys that we've been listening to were talking about. It's like the single family house is an amazing investment. If you just read an IRS tax return, you see what
Yeah.
all these benefits from owning a single family house, and it is staggering,
Yeah.
all the benefits you get. And it's not like you're cheating the tax code. It's right there in the forms, and it's right there in the code that say do these things, and these are the deductions you get, these are the benefits you get, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
So, and they do that because it stimulates the economy even further. And having good quality housing for people is good for the economy overall, good for Uncle Sam. It's good for all the American people. So having a small slice of that, we're contributing a little bit in that regard as well. So
Right. So many golden nuggets in that little bit you just said, from networking to relationships to understanding the tax benefits to understanding the benefits of a house in general. Pete Fortunato does a great job explaining the benefits house. If you are a
yeah,
YouTuber, go YouTube Pete Fortunato, the benefit house, just to hear him explain it. You might have to watch it 30 times to get it, but
yeah,
he's it's the benefit house really brought it to my attention. Like, wow, it's not just cash flow. That's
yeah.
just a little bit of it. That's just a little slice of it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that little section there, man. I love your wisdom. I love that you're sharing it. Let's